Well, it's a wonderful morning because it's the first of the month of love, but also the 32nd day of the year. And so time is fast passing. You should be passing at the same rate. However, as we get into the deep of the year now, officially in our Kickstarter this morning, we're going to be looking into real estate investment opportunities. We are also going to look into the element of the trends in real estate business and markets as far as 2024 is concerned. What are they promising? And also navigating Uganda's real estate market by and large. What does it look like? Adaptation, especially by Ugandans. Given how our traditions and cultures have raised us, are we able to quickly transcend into the new normal as far as real estate is concerned? My name is Priscilla Regina Deloga. Welcome to our Kickstart. The backbone of it is that in recent years, the real estate has emerged as a vital sector that plays a pivotal role in driving Uganda's economic growth, from providing shelter and employment opportunities to contributing to the GDP and, of course, attracting foreign investment. Real estate has become indeed a key driver for Uganda's economic development. Now, just looking at last year alone, the real estate market here in Uganda was expected to reach a value of $356 billion US in Uganda alone in 2024. Among the different segments, residential real estate dominates the market with a projected market volume of $321 billion US. This segment is expected to grow at an annual rate of 5.19%, and this is between 2024 to 2028, resulting into a market volume of about $437 billion US by 2028. Now, if we were to make global comparisons, we'll look at a superpower, China, that is expected to generate the highest value of the real estate market with an estimated value of $135 trillion US in this very same year. We're talking billions, they're talking trillions. How can we talk trillions one day in this very same market as players? Now, the real estate market in Uganda is experiencing a surge as in regards to demand, especially for residential properties due to the population growth, obviously, and the urbanization. Now, to make sense of this industry, its potentials, and where we can loop in as a country for social economic growth, we are joined by Mr. Vincent Agaba, who is the Chairperson Governing Council, Real Estate Institute of East Africa, as well as Area Uganda, and he's going to give us his wisdom and a wealth of experience in this field. Good morning to you, Mr. Agaba.
Good morning.
Happy New Year, because this is the first time you're appearing on the program.
Yes,
and
yes,
so it's only in place for us to say Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year too.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, speaking of years, could you first give us an analysis of 2023 and what it's like, what it's been like in the real estate sector?
Yes. Now, my view is, of course, thank you very much for the invitation to the show. 2023 has been a good year, of course, with challenges as usual, but in terms of growth for the sector, we see a lot of developments taking place. We see a lot of participation, both actually people embracing the real estate as a destination for investment. Before, I would talk about treasury bills, bonds, and of course fixed deposits as that kind of area for, of course, shares, buying shares. But you see real estate becoming one of the options, and we are excited about that. And I think the reason is, of course, the population is growing. There is a big number of rural-urban migration, which I'll go back to that. And also, you see a lot of activity happening around construction sector. Industrialization in terms of manufacturing is happening. So you look about the companies that are going into the market, producing tiles, producing steel, producing all these kind of building materials, and all that is geared toward this real estate sector. So in our view, of course, the financing part is also there. There are many options of banks in terms of mortgages, and also other micro-housing finance options coming on market, but also the circles and all these saving schemes that are geared towards the sector. So in the 2023, we saw a lot of activity happening around real estate, and I think even the concept of real estate being understood. Universities have introduced courses, bachelor's of degree in real estate management. We are hoping to see a master's degree or MBA, specialization in real estate, coming up. We have the institute, for example, Real Estate of West Africa, offering all the other options, certificate, diploma. I can tell you many things. So we see an activity going on. And of course, the government also investing a lot of infrastructure that also make real estate happen. If you see all these kind of things to do with road constructions, with lighting of streets in this kind of NAM, which has just ended, all those things are good things. And of course, the utility companies like National Water and Sewerage Corporation, Umeme, and all these telecom companies bringing fiber optic into homes of people. It is big.
Okay.
Yes.
You have talked about demand and supply being pretty much equivalent to support the sector. You've also talked about the growing financing facilities that are available to support the sector's growth. But I would like to have your analysis on post-COVID-19. COVID-19, really, post-COVID-19. We've had rapid growth, and we want to understand exactly what has facilitated that rapidness of growth, because now of course we can't say COVID-19 helped people realize I don't have to go to town to do certain things, and therefore someone maybe made opportune of that and put up a building that can harbor something that they are looking for in town. But exactly what were the facilitators of that rapid growth?
Actually, this happened even within COVID itself.
Yes.
You know, when we were locked down,
people were
realized
constructing and
that the only thing they could do is going into their sites and do something. And everyone who thought that actually they had saved the money to be on their accounts, they realized, oh, at the end of the day, the only thing that can happen is being sent home, and home became that very unique basic need. And I think we have been underrating it for a long time. If you look at the basic needs for a human being, you're looking about three. You're looking about shelter, food, and clothing. I can assure you, if you have those three, the rest can come later. But again, at the center of those three, housing becomes the anchor. Why? Because you can have 1 meal a day, but as long as you have a roof on your head to avoid lions tearing you apart, you can sleep and wake up with hope the next day. As long as you have one pair of clothes on your body and you have a roof on your head, you are safe. So everyone realized that housing was actually the best and most important basic need of humanity. And even those who had monies on all their accounts, on banks and all these things, parked in vehicles which are parked in the compounds and not moving, I mean, everyone was needing to be somewhere. So real estate became very critical and everyone went in there. So the surge post-COVID was that, what else do we need in this world? At the end of the day, it is a home, it is shelter, it is that you can see. If you were running a bar, it was closed. If you're running a saloon, it was just down. If anything else, you remember the term of essential and non-essential services picked the momentum. And of course, after that, people started working home. They realized, oh, we can go to Zoom and do work. Therefore, now home became not only a home, it became a place of work. It became a recreation place because you could just at the balcony do your exercises and everything else. So home became very critical and everyone just puts money into it. And I think that is still happening today. And I hope we don't forget it. Why? Because if you move all over the world, the sign of wealth and orderliness, without talking to anyone, it is just looking at how the real estate sector is aligned, how housing is aligned, where are the places of work, where are the places of worship, where are the places of going to school and hospital when we are sick and so forth. If all those things are in order and the connectivity with them is very transparent and is seen, then everyone will say this community is organized, this community is wealthy, this community is at a certain level. No one needs to tell you that. So I hope that we don't forget that.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. You have talked about housing, and the reality of the matter is that we're having some deficits in that area. 2.1 million housing units as deficit, according to statistics from Uganda Bureau of Statistics. And by 2030, it's even going to be worse. If we were to project it into the next 2 decades, 20 years down the road, you're looking to about 8 million units as far as housing deficit is concerned. And yet you do have the same bureau going to be conducting a census this year. That means our population is definitely going to be having a new statistic altogether. What are the determinants that are fostering this housing deficit?
No, I think housing and the sorting housing in a country, it is an issue which requires very serious planning. That's number one. Number two, it is an issue which requires a bit of a huge coordination between different agencies and entities, including the population. Now, let me just paint a picture and say, look, for example, if we are going to have an organized neighborhood outside Kampala, how should it look like? It should be a neighborhood whereby I should not be moving kilometers to go to work. That place should be having a commercial center. It should be having public service centers. It should be having the banks, the telecoms, the authorities, URSB, URA. So you have a center whereby people in the periphery live and they go to the center to work without moving from, for example, Gayaza to come to Kampala. And what I'm saying here is that the deficit is being caused by sporadic development. Because if we build anyhow, as how we are building, without knowing what is the rates of urbanization, what's the population growth within a different area, and so forth, yes, what is going to happen is that the houses will never be enough. And the other issue is affordability. Affordability of housing is not about the unit, single unit of the house. It is about how do you access that house, the road that leads you there, the power that reaches that house, the water that reaches that house, and the transportation system that is within that neighborhood that leads you to home. That actually causes the unit of the house. So in principle, if you have a real estate sector that is private sector led alone, you cannot be able to offload enough supply of housing, and at the same time, you cannot be able to lower down the cost of housing. So what you need is a round table whereby if you're going to develop a neighborhood, National Water and Sewerage Corporation must be in the house. National Roads Authority should sit on the table. The telecom companies should be on the table. The local authorities, for example, KCCA, should sit on the table. The banking institutions that are going to finance those activities should be sitting around the same table. And all of us plan together and say, look, we are going to open up a neighborhood of 100,000 people in a certain location, these square kilometers. And you will bring the roads in, I will bring the water in, I will bring in a very organized, planned way. And then we can talk now to the banks and the institutions that we need to service that area, that we're going to open up a neighborhood of 100,000 people, and therefore this is a market that is going to consume your telecom services, so come and have a service center in this area. The bank open a branch because you're going to have these people needing banking services. Then have a factory in the neighborhood that actually you're going to produce the basic certain things which you need to be in the supermarket that will be in that neighborhood. And then around that neighborhood, making sure that there is land for agriculture, because there is food that needs to be fed by these people. Now, at that level, you're saying, look, if you buy a house in this neighborhood, you are going to work in that bank there, you're going to be, your job is in that area. Now, the house can be lowered because all these utility services are brought in by the public sector, but they know that every extension I make as national water, this will be going to be 100,000 meters of water, and these people will pay for my water. Women will feel the same because they are creating a market. Then the government, the local government, will know that we are going to collect local rental income tax and property rates. So it is an investment that is made by the private public partnership, looking at 20 years, 30 years return on investment for any entity that is involved. Now, in principle, that is not happening at the moment. Why? Because we are working individually. So certainly developer X goes and develops something in Kajansi, another one goes and develops something in Luzira, another one develops something somewhere.
You've even gone very far. Here in Kololo, we do have now home bar, and
Exactly.
So is this a residential area or is it moving into a commercial area?
I can tell you it is the understanding of what affordability is. Affordability is not the unit cost of the house. It is all the coexistence of everyone living in the same neighborhood. And each unit cost of any utility service or any road affects the cost of the house. And again, the financier who we are talking about will be looking at all this and saying, okay, fine, how do I finance this project? So if it's as organized as that, probably the financier also will say, look, the interest rates will be low because that project is having success factors that we can see in the long term. Even in the buying and the selling of the houses will be very fluid because I will buy a house there and I'm sure I'm going to live there, work there, play there, go to hospital there, schools are there, churches are there, everything is there.
All right, we would have had to have, you know, the financer respond, but unfortunately, due to circumstances uncontrollable, Mr. Kawesi was not able to join us on this conversation, but maybe later on we'll be able to engage him and get his 2 cents as one who's playing in the same sector, but from the financing side of things. Now, you have talked about it being a private sector led. You're sitting on the Governing Council of the Institute of East Africa in this particular field. I know that you've had vast exposure to East Africa, and it begs the question within the region, by what you have said, which country is actually following that order of you know, getting into real estate organization and causing that socio-economic change?
Yeah. I mean, even in Uganda, we are trying our best, and if you can see the satellites type of developments that are happening, gated communities, we still call them. Probably what they are lacking is the commercial centers. You look at these companies in Luboa, FNSSF, Mirembe Villas, they are trying to do the mini Garuga Center investments, mini type of things like this. But what they need is the commercial centers and the infrastructure being brought on site. The government is also trying, because you see the roads coming in. But it needs to be 90%, not 60%. So it should be 90%, 100%, so that you create a total neighborhood. We have Tatu City in Nairobi, which is trying to do the same. So there are resemblance of this. Of course, Rwanda, they are trying to do it at the country level, that the country, it should be coexisting with the neighborhoods and so forth. So I have seen this, of course, in the rest of the other countries. For example, the Netherlands, one city was full because they didn't have accommodation and the land was getting... They just move out and create an annexed town and drive everyone. So even for us who are in the real estate management and the agents and business, when you're marketing houses in those neighborhoods, you're not marketing a unit house, you're marketing the experience, you're marketing the neighborhood. I'm going to sell you a 1-bedroom apartment, but it comes with the following. There are roads, there is water, there is electricity, there is actually an MTN service center where you can work. There is actually a local government that actually you can apply for. There is a hospital that if you're a nurse, you don't need to shift and work somewhere else, you will work in there. There's a school if you're a teacher where you will teach. You don't sell a house, you sell the neighborhood. And that attracts people into the neighborhood because they know it's self-contained, you will be in there and remain in there. I would like to mention this very clear, because the point is that when you densify population, you save land. If you get a neighborhood organized and people live in a certain neighborhood together, you save land. Why? Because you avoid sporadic developments. And that land, for sure, will be needed. We have a challenge with our land tenure system in Uganda because everyone owns land. But it is a matter of making sure people understand that, please, just having your house in the middle of 1 square kilometer of land, and you have this just land looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, I have some cattle on the other end, some matoke on the other end. I'm trying to create the neighborhood for myself, not so many people, just me and my family.
Exactly,
yes.
But the question is, if half of the population did that, where would the rest live? I think Ubuntu...
In the next square mile, they'll be my neighbors.
Exactly. So we need to look at it from the national point of view. Land does not increase, although we try to create it in swamps and lakes and so forth, but there are already effects for that. So we need to be very, very, very minimizing our land and making sure that land serves everyone. So densifying populations, rural-urban migration is critical. It is there, it is here with us, and it has its own effects. It creates a demand for housing, it puts pressure on infrastructure, on utilities, it puts pressure on government in terms of public health and everything else, including garbage collection, drainage system, and so forth. So how do we densify population in an organized manner so that people live in a certain easy way in order for you to connect them with certain public services? Because you are going to create one sewage line in an orderly manner in a neighborhood, and everyone taps into that sewage line. If you don't do that, everyone will have a septic tank at their places. And that's a cost for developing that house, but at the same time, in public health, we shall pay a huge price.
Okay. I've seen an interesting trajectory. Let me give an example of Nairobi. Of course, it will have the mass structures to cater for, you know, the dense populated kind of housing or real estate, but then also the rich who don't cry are given their own, you know, demarcation of area to be able to put up their comfortable residences. And so that ecosystem, could you talk to us about that ecosystem? Because not all fingers are equal, so you can't expect Mr. Museveni to be in a densely populated area code. You don't expect our ministers to do the same, and yet we are not having expansion of land, as you said.
Yeah, the neighborhoods we're talking about, they cater for everyone. So in a normal setup, if I would pick, I wish I could have some graphic expression of this, which we already have. Next time I'll project it. You have the center, we call them the city center. It's the CBD. That's where the shops are, the streets, the restaurants are, and so forth. As you go outside the city, you go to the neighborhoods which are closer to the center, which are mansions and bungalows. As you move out, you go into, for example, semi-detached, where you have a line of houses, two in.
So the realistic picture for us here in Kampala, let's use Kampala.
Let's use Kampala.
Yes, use Kampala.
Now, you remember, for example, how Kampala was designed. You had the CBD around Kampala Road, Ginger Road, Bombo Road. Shops, you can see it from Uganda House, that whole street to Ginger Road roundabout, up to, for example, Wandegeya. When you went up a bit, you are entering Nakasero. And when you are entering Nakasero, there is State House. And those neighborhoods had all these good, nice mansion houses with their own fences and so forth. Then you go around Yusufule Road, which is going through the same high-end neighborhood connecting to Kololo. Then beyond that, you would go to Lugogo Bypass, which is connecting to Ginger Road from Game and so forth. Then you are going into the periphery of the city. As you extend towards Bugolobi, you get into the apartments, the Bugolobi apartments and so forth.
Not skipping the slum area there that you have
exactly,
in
but
Naguru.
That should not have happened because that should have been blending into Naguru, getting into apartments, into periphery. To the northern bypass, you understand from me. Now the question is, when you stop at the northern bypass, now the challenge has come from northern bypass to Ntinda, to Chiwatule, to Nalia. You don't see what you're seeing from Kampala Road. Now there the confusion starts. Because
commercial center here, a housing here, and something else there.
So the people who planned the CBD had the same view of coexistence. But stop at the northern bypass and continue ahead. Then you see what now becomes what. And we have started doing it also in Kololo, whereby where it was residential is turning into high rise. And what was happening. So we need to have that happening. But if we don't, the question between me and you, which is the next Kololo of this Kampala?
I don't see it, because the people of Nigeria and Nalia would have prided that they would be the next ones, but still it's high rise. So the next one, honestly, is in places like Matuga. Because those kinds of people are now stepping out of the confusion that you are stating.
But as long as it is planned, and what I have talked in the beginning, that all these guys are in the room, the agencies, the roads, the water, the power, and the local authorities, that they plan them better. Because if they don't, yes, you will go and put your big nice house around Matuga, someone else will come and put for a chicken project next to your wall fence. What will you do?
Nothing.
So we need planning first.
The same authority authorized both of you to put up your structures.
We need planning first and then development.
Okay.
If we don't do that, even affordability becomes a problem.
Okay.
Because what you're going to do is you're going to start making a road going around people's wall fences. So in that zigzag motion, you're increasing the kilometers. The same will happen for water pipes. The same will happen for cabling of optic fiber. So the cost unit for any service provider will be so high.
Okay.
And that will cause a problem for any single unit of house that is developed in those sites.
All right. Just clarifying from my producer if we're signing out of this conversation or we're taking a break. Yeah. Okay, so let me have you give the closing remarks on what's the future of real estate, opportunities. What are the opportunities really? The
opportunities are very many, I can tell you. I have told you housing is the basic need. And number two is that there is a lot that housing can offload in terms even of manufacturing. So if you look at, if you activate the housing industry, you have activated how many industries at the same time? People are making nails, people are making steel, people are making cement, people are making plumbing materials, people are making everything.
Yeah.
So unlock housing, you unlock other manufacturing industries, and when you do that, get the utilities companies to supply all the services into that neighborhood, get the local authorities to collect property rates and rental income tax, URA becomes happy, government becomes happy, let the transportation sector kick in terms of transporting people into those neighborhoods, get the food, the agriculture sector, come and feed those society. Now the sewage and systems, garbage collection and so forth, it is a lot to do with that. So the future opportunities are many, and anyone can play at those levels and make sure that they have business.
All right, Mr. Vincent Agaba, your wisdom has indeed been transformational in helping us better understand real estate as a sector and industry here for us in Uganda. And of course, it has a long way to go because at the end of the day, what we'd desire to see is that if government comes in to take the upper hand of the industry, it sorts out all these challenges that he was talking about, planning being one of them. Very, very crucial to the sector's contribution to social and economic growth. Well, this brings us to the end of this discussion, but don't move a muscle. We'll return shortly.
You're watching Morning at NTV.